this session is going to be on the growth engines. When we started today, we talked about that telcos are looking at aggressively looking at new growth engines, and these growth engines are in ICT services. These growth engines are in financial services. These growth engines are in entertainment and gaming and other services. So what we thought is we bring together three examples of companies who are all pursuing these diverse growth stories. So first up, I would like to invite Raja Mansukhani, who is CEO of Boost Connect. Raja, welcome. Raja has a fabulous story. He's spent a lot of time in telecom. At the same time, he's incubated a business within telecoms on financial services. And look forward to hearing how you are driving that and how you're managing and yet leveraging the strengths of a telco to drive such a powerful growth adjacency, which is financial services. So welcome, Raja.
Thank you.
Excellent. Next, I would like to invite Prem Menon. As we know, in Malaysia there is a single wholesale 5G network provider, a landmark, a global best practice in many ways. Right? It has not happened anywhere else in the world, and Prem is in a unique position where he's entrusted with helping build the enterprise business and support the existing MNOs in building out their enterprise business. So again, a growth engine for telcos, and how as a wholesale provider he's playing it to help support this growth. So welcome, good afternoon, Prem. Thank you for joining.
Hey, thanks, Twimbit. Thanks, Manoj, for hosting me and us today.
Excellent. With apologies, Krish Datta unfortunately had to, he had something urgent to attend, so he is missing out on this session. So I'm sure we have two wonderful speakers here who will fill in that vacuum. So maybe let's start with you, Raja. Raja, can you tell us a bit about what is this growth opportunity that Boost Connect is addressing? How big is it, and that journey to be able to address that growth opportunity?
Thanks, Manoj, for that question, and great to be here as a part of the broader forum. So let me start off by just sharing the digital opportunities in the region have grown significantly, more so the last 2 years, right? We have added in the region itself around 60 million new digital customers being added to the internet economy. This growth was amplified because of the pandemic and the lockdowns that we have seen, and needless to say, there is abundance of untapped potential in the digital space. Now, with the addition of more efficient and high-speed technologies like 5G, it will make this growth trajectory even faster than what it is. So Boost Connect is a two-sided regional payment platform ecosystem, which provides a multi-country reach to digital entities like Google, Apple, Netflix, etc., to end customers via telco and other clients. Every telco is trying to go beyond just being the big pipe, right? And is trying to enable a digital lifestyle of their customers and use that as a differentiated positioning for better acquisition and retention. And this is where we come in and help them using their key assets and build innovative products to fulfill the digital lifestyle needs of their end customers. The vanilla product here, which acts as an alternative and popular payment channel, is carrier billing, where the end customer uses their prepaid top-up or postpaid plans to pay for digital content, apps, games, etc. But where we make this even more interesting is by understanding the demand and creating innovative products like white label digital content and gaming storefronts for telcos within their existing self-help assets, bundling products which are highly effective to retain high-value customers, micro content loans, as a lot of digital lifestyle experiences are broken due to out of balance or no credit situations within our developing markets. Then elements like fraud protection, subscription engines, and all are quite hygiene. We are also in the process of launching a buy now pay later product with our sister company, Boost Credit, and that makes this even more interesting. We are currently present in 7 markets across Southeast Asia and South Asia, extending to over 100 digital partners that are globally recognized in entertainment, gaming, app stores, and others. Our services have been placed not only for big brands such as Tencent, PUBG, Google, Huawei, Paytm, Axiata mobile operators, but for many other industry players as well. We provide in total access to over 1 billion customers across Southeast Asia and South Asia, across operators, e-wallets, e-marketplaces, and many more. So our vision into the future growth is by reaching out to the underserved while driving both financial and digital inclusion through our solutions and services. We want to go beyond just enabling growth and reach. We want to bring in innovation for our partners and clients, and bring in products which would help them create differentiations and compete with the other players who are in this digital space.
Oh, fabulous. Raja, I must say, I must confess, it's a story that is not well known and understood in the scale and magnitude at which you guys are operating and enabling. So, but maybe just a quick follow-up question before I go to Prem. So, how do you leverage the strengths of Exiata at the same time, participate in this digital play? And I think you also support other players as well. So how is that synergy? Is it just that Axiata happened to invest in this and that's it, or are you really leveraging something of Axiata as the parent company to make this a success?
Yeah, very interesting question, and we are one of those examples of an incubation which was born inside a telco, right? So we were very fortunate that we were literally born in the telco organization, which is obviously Axiata. Axiata has, I mean, I'm not saying this for to patronize this, but Axiata has been quite a forward thinker where they decided to invest 9 years ago into a digital entity and create a digital entity organically called Axiata Digital. The entity was created to explore digital propositions and sectors within tech, fintech, digital advertising, and identify the areas which will help the group further differentiate and grow the business. So the leverage obviously was that we learned a lot within the group itself as an incubation while serving our own telco operators. And then from there, we established this as a P&L entity and then started to serve the market outside. And the collaboration is working very smoothly. So our clients are not only Axiata operators, but beyond Axiata, there are operators as well as other industry players who are our clients today. So it has worked well because we started early. We learned a lot, and we're still learning, and we could scale because of the learning that we adopted during the incubation phase. Now, obviously, some of this also comes with its own challenges, also because the competition to telcos are not just telcos. There's so many other industries competing with telcos. So creating the products which are following that type of demand and also identifying the differentiating elements while playing on the strengths of a telco organization is something that has helped us quite significantly. So yeah, I mean, we have leverage. We continue to leverage in our positioning within the Axiata group, and our footprint has gone beyond the Axiata sort of operators that we are connected to.
So in a particular market, you may have a competitor to Axiata also using Boost Connect. Is that fair to say?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, fabulous. And we'll talk a bit more. Let's come to Prem. Prem, when we say 5G, everybody says enterprise led. So it seems like the weight of Malaysia is on your shoulders to enable that 5G and show us the monetization and the business case for 5G. Maybe we first start by, if you can tell us, what is the scale of this opportunity we are talking from an enterprise standpoint, and what is the vision for this business that DNB has to help the MNOs and others drive growth for 5G led services?
Okay, when we talk about 5G, it's, I mean, globally, it's all about it's all being driven by consumer businesses. And 5G alone by as a service doesn't mean anything for enterprise, because when you look at an enterprise organization, It is about curating the entire value chain, that how you stitch that to address a particular use case and build that as a service and a solution to those particular enterprises. Now, what we did initially was we wanted to see exactly what would the direct and indirect impact of 5G would be for Malaysia. And we engaged a study by EY, which is being published at our DMB website. And we found that we looked at nine different industries, and we looked at a cumulative GDP contribution over 10 years was over 650 billion ringgit. And then we looked at it on an average was about 5% of GDP growth that 5G would contribute, but then that's about 122 billion or so. But then how do you achieve this? I mean, you don't achieve it just by rolling out 5G. So a couple of things that we are doing here is basically we are trying to understand and see what are the early use cases. I mean, it's going to be initially on EMBB rollout before the URLCC and the latency part come in. So if you look at the entire solution sets within any each vertical to address a use case, you'd have the devices that would gather that data. You would have the connectivity in which the 5G provides. And if it's latency sensitive, then you would have an edge processing capability there. And then you probably have some sort of application sitting on a cloud storage environment, which will also play a big role. And then on top of that, you have the AI part of it, where you start building algorithm and starting to understand how do you take the uploads of images that is coming in and make it into the decision that is basically something that can be applied for a particular industry. And then to do all this, we have what we call system integration to put that all. This is just to allow one use case for one particular industry. So what we said is now, in order to make this happen, we started to dig a bit more into understanding each verticals. And currently we have started working on 12 different industry verticals and trying to understand each of their pain points. A couple of things we're doing here is not just from an inside out perspective. We're also talking to the customers. What is it that they are using? A lot of them could be using on a 4G environment, but how can 5G enhance it? So we have been doing a lot of direct touch engagement with the customers just to understand what does it take. Now, the second thing is also who are the ecosystem partners that are available in Malaysia? How many do we need to bring from overseas? What are the existing use cases that are being already deployed? How can we jumpstart this entire journey with enterprises? Because once you start seeing a quick wins across how 5G is being deployed in certain industry verticals, it's just a matter of time how you can replicate that. So what we are doing is coming in as an enabler. And also what we're doing is also we are creating what is called an interoperability or a validation center, where they can bring, all the startups can bring, all the solution providers can bring, whoever has tested on 4G, bring them on 5G, test it, make it work, and then we publish them on our website. So each MNOs can actually jumpstart that journey into delivering what the enterprises need. These are a couple of things that we are doing within how we want to accelerate. And one of the visions that you said is about not just about providing 80% coverage by 2024. We are also measured on the adoption rate of, and a lot of emphasis, like you rightfully said, the next wave of revenue for MNOs are going to come from enterprises. How can we make that a reality? What we want to do is make the journey simple, make the journey short, rather than going through complexity. And the other advantage that we have within us is we are greenfield. We have not inherited any legacy inheritance or a lot of integration issues that we need to look at. So we're starting from a clean slate. We're looking over a horizon that we want to see what we want to achieve, and we want to actually craft that journey to help enterprises together with the MNOs how that can be achieved.
Excellent. Hey, Prem, good insights on that. But let's say if we were to take a harsh look at this, really, majority of mobile operators, right? They have struggled to build enterprise business. Now, if you had a fixed line business, then yes, you had a strong enterprise business, TM and Singtel and Telstra. But the mobile operators, by and large, are still struggling to build good enterprise capabilities. Even the fixed operators, in most cases, they are selling connectivity. In the case of 5G, you're talking about a completely new capability set that is needed. And, and means can telcos really do it? And how are you really, you think you can help them be that difference to make that journey possible? Because enterprise has been talked about for the last maybe 5 years as the biggest growth opportunity, and yet they're we are not made as much progress as we would have liked to.
Okay, if you look at the global average of what MNOs or big tier ones, take tier ones out like the Vodafones or the Deutsche Telecoms or the BTs out, it's a global enterprise contribution is ranges between 8 to 15%. That is how much the global average of enterprise contribution traditionally is up to 4G. And 5G has definitely created a lot of hype because of the upload capabilities and also because of how the latencies and all that issues, all that within 3GPP is being addressed can actually open up a lot more new use cases for those vertical industries. That's where the whole excitement is coming with 5G. Yes, it is not going to be easy, and that is why what we are trying to do is take a approach where we want to simplify that matter. Is it going to be easy, plug and play? What we are trying to do eventually, we hope it will be a plug and play solution, but initially we'll have to go through that learning processes, and we're going to learn that gradually. And what we also like, what I said earlier, is that we don't want to reinvent the wheel. Let's find out what is being done, what worked, what didn't work right, and we want to learn from those mistakes rather than being a traditional telco approach on saying, hey, let's try this out. It's about not fail fast. I mean, those times are basically there, but what we are trying to do is how we can minimize that risk. And that is why understanding the customers is a lot better. Well, and if you look at a global average, what they're saying between reports is about 40 to 60% of enterprise revenue is going to come from 5G use cases for enterprises. So what we are trying to do is simplify the journey, simplify the pain points, and also and trying to see how we can actually stitch this in a faster way by bringing that from just doing one integration with a 5G standalone single wholesale network rather than multiple integrations across different networks across the country. That is one way of how we can accelerate it. The second thing that we are doing is also the skill set and the talent that is required in the country. So what we are doing in that area as part of our socio-economic contribution is that we are trying to include working together with partners to see how we can include new curriculum into the universities. In fact, UTM is the first one where we have started working in collaboration with Ericsson. They have about 650 students signed up for year three, and they are now looking at AI. They're looking at network function virtualization. They're looking at IoT, and they're looking at machine learning courses. And these are part of the curriculum. And now what we're doing is we're extending that and working together with MOHE to basically expand this across all government universities. So in this way, it is not a one-stop fix, but it's a gradual start of where we want the journey to be. We see where it is going to, what is the talent that is required, and we are trying to cultivate that as a national agenda to make sure that these loopholes are being addressed, because you don't want to just be an adopter of technology, you want to be a creator of technology as well.
So, Prem, you said currently it is between 8 to 15%, and it can go up to what, 30 to 40%? Is that what the data suggests?
There are even reports that suggest up to 70% by 2030. But what we are taking is a pragmatic approach of maybe 20 to 30, 30 to 40%. And that is it. The other couple of things is we need to basically make sure that these use cases are adopted. The industry is ready. So we are doing a lot of education. We're doing a lot of hand holding. And we are trying to see how we can provide better healthcare services, how we can then do a lot of augmented learning for healthcare, for teaching schools. We're looking at how pandemic has suffered us from virtual learning, how we can close that gap, how we can provide faster connectivity, looking at the urban and rural divide. We are looking at how we can empower productivity, be it on ports or manufacturing. And there's been a lot of interest from industrial zones, from manufacturers are coming to us and say, hey, please tell us what are the use cases? How can we do? How can we deploy it? We are ready. So they are quite aware, but we are also telling them we don't want to start with doing remote surgery tomorrow, right? Because that is not ready yet. So we want to look at use cases like enhanced mobile broadband that can be easily adopted, right from surveillance, security. There's so many use cases that we want to. We just want to start deploying and seeding them first before, and then gradually taking them as the technology and the standards mature, and also the ecosystem to be affordable in the market as well.
Excellent. Hey, thank you very much, Prem. Let's go back to you, Raja. So, Raja, telco is used to, in the heydays, they would say 75% EBITDA margin, right? And you are building a new age, almost a digital business, which profitability is different. You are maybe hungry to expand. You are raising capital from the best venture capitalists or private equity firms around the world. So how is it managing your stakeholders, who are used to always seeing good cash flow generated to suddenly seeing a very different financial statement from your business? Is that is it different? Is it difficult? How are you managing them, and how are they adapting to the new norms of a digital business?
Sure, and this is a very interesting question. So first of all, what we strongly believe in following is a value creation and capture framework. So what that means is whatever we do is defined by, or the decision making process is defined by identifying the demand of our clients and the values that we create for them, but at the same time the value that we capture for Boost. Yeah, so it's a good balance that we try and maintain. So you're right. We are constantly focused on growth while keeping an eye on the unit economics so that we don't get derailed from our path to profitability. So for example, our transactional volume year on year grew by over 50%. But at the same time, our net revenue also grew by 80%, and very importantly, our PAT also improved by over 80%. So this growth in transactions is an important metric, and the support at the bottom line is also an indicator of the margins that can be driven through this ecosystem while looking for growth, right? And the demand is again coming from the adoption of the digital sort of lifestyle by the customers, and especially in the last 2 years, the kind of exponential growth that we have seen, and digital lifestyle becoming a core strategy for all telcos and other organizations has helped us. Now that said, obviously transparency is the key in managing stakeholders, and board members, and our board has been quite patient and supportive, and we obviously keep them informed on all the business parameters to ensure that we are in line with their expectations. Yeah.
Yeah. So a follow up on that, Raja, as you mentioned, right? You are, telcos have viewed always customer experience in the sense of a call center, average handling time, how quickly can I get people off the call, save costs, right? Whereas you just now alluded to a different set of metrics. As you said, and this is what every telco around the world is looking at learning to adapt to, saying, hey, I have new benchmarks for customer experience success. And I think you briefly alluded, can you expand a bit? How do you measure the customer value capture success? What is that framework? Is it possible to expand on that a bit? Because I think as telcos, our value capture traditionally is associated with ARPU, and how you manage to grow the ARPU and number of customers. What does value capture mean for somebody like Boost Connect?
Yeah, so there are three fundamental parameters that we look at, and I'm saying this more at an intrinsic level. Then I'll probably talk at
Yes.
an extrinsic level. So intrinsic level, we look at the gross transactional volume, which is our GTV, which is an indication of how many customers have transacted and with what value on our platform. So that drives the top line transactional growth, and this is where all our clients are being paid by their customers, right?
Correct.
The second measure is what's our revenue capture from that overall transaction, which is the net revenue, and obviously the third is the fact associated with the margins that we make from the overall transactional volume that is generated. So these are three fundamental parameters that we look at. So while growth is very important, we don't want to be in a consistent cash burn situation. Hence, PAT is an important parameter that we continuously measure and keep an eye on the unit economics associated with all initiatives that we execute. Now, at an extrinsic level for our clients and their end customers, so for clients, like I said, the value creation part is the GTV. That means this is the value that the customer is paying for buying services from a particular client. So that GTV is the value that is like the gross revenue for that particular client, and of course they derive their own net revenue from it based on the margins associated with each and every product. From a customer perspective, successful transactions, uptime of our platforms, issues, anything related to things like refunds, those are our key measures. So turnaround times are I mean, these are very different than traditional legacy ecosystem. So turnaround times are in minutes and hours, not in days for anything that we do. And also uptimes are gold standards that we have to maintain, specifically considering that this is a 24 by 7 transactional ecosystem. So that's how this whole ecosystem works from an intrinsic and extrinsic perspective. Sitting at the core is what I mentioned earlier, is the value creation and value capture framework.
Hey, fabulous. So if you had to give feedback to your colleagues who are running, let's say, the telco connectivity, consumer retail business, right? How would you say, what are some of these lessons that you have that you would say, here are the top three things that I would take back to define as, hey, maybe am I even measuring GTV, gross transaction value? Does it have any merit or sense in terms of the value I'm enabling through my? So, is there anything in parallels that you can share as, let's say, because you have a history of having worked in telecoms as well? Is there anything you can see that you can give it back to them as key takeaways as they look at transforming their business?
Yeah, honestly, Manoj, I'm learning myself. But if there's
Yeah,
anything that I've
sure.
learned, and there's always pros and cons to each
On.
industry, right? So from being on the telco side for a long time as well, one of the key elements, and this is a word which is very popular across telcos, digital companies, but how you implement this word is very important. Is agile, right? So agile not as an adjective, but agile as a process. And agile is fundamentally driven by empowerment. So as a part of that process, agility needs to be inherent for you to be able to respond to your customers, measure your the responses well also, and follow the demand. Sometimes we do things intrinsically which are not so meaningful from a customer viewpoint, and following that demand and responding to it in an agile manner is the fundamental element of how we run this ecosystem.
Excellent.
And in terms of the measures that you mentioned, some of the key measures that I highlighted here, in saturated telco markets, right? Most of the countries within Southeast Asia, South Asia are quite saturated, and this is where creating the differentiation through a digital lifestyle becomes very important. And how you measure. So for a telco, the way we look at a digital lifestyle is, what is the demand? What are the customers consuming today in the digital ecosystem? That should be a key measure for every telco, because
Mhm.
price plans,
Correct.
network connectivity, all is becoming a parity between telcos. So we have to follow the demand quite closely,
Mm.
in terms of what the customers are consuming now, whether they're gamers, entertainment junkies, and any other segment that is there. So understanding that demand, measuring that demand, and how you're fulfilling that demand will help the telcos create the differentiation. That's just my humble opinion.
I think it's a fabulous point, and I think this is something that we have been pushing hard. That our measures of our vision for what we can be is limited by how we are measuring the opportunity, and unless we start measuring the value that we are creating in the adjacencies and start seeing what impact we can have, we will never be able to exploit that. So thanks for that. So a follow-up question to both of you, which is, so, and it was alluded by, and Vikram talked about it, Vikram Sinha, CEO of Indosat or Radio Hutch earlier. He said the biggest thing is the telcos need to learn from the digital companies is the ability to empower, make mistakes, be agile. Yeah. So, Prem, are you empowered to make mistakes? Are you empowering your teams to make mistakes? Is it, you guys, while you are a telco, in many ways you are greenfield. So, how are you making this transition possible to make this, to build a new kind of a business, yet, serving the traditional connectivity wholesale business?
First thing is we are not transitioning. So we have already transformed. And the thing is, when you look at it, it's basically the cost to acquire, serve, and retain a customer. You're talking about the customer waiting hours for buying a service. You're looking at percentage of digital services that are being deployed and adopted. These are all new digital KPIs that are probably crafted up through TM forums, TM3. But what we are looking at is basically we want to build the best 5G network in the world. We aspire to do that, and we are looking at basically delivering 100 Mbps at edge site, which is probably one of the most resilient network with that we are trying to achieve. With that, we look at it from two ways. One is basically from a supply-led demand. supply-led rollout. But what we also do is we tell enterprise customers, hey, even they don't have to wait when the rollout is going to happen at that area. If there is a requirement from that particular industry, they want to deploy a private network, we are there to make sure it happens. And we don't wait for that particular time frame when the rollout is going to be at that particular state or whatever. So that is why we have also started addressing East Malaysia, Sabah, Sarawak, and all. We're also talking to companies like the MNOs have brought to us in Penang, in Johor, and all that, where they say, hey, I want to start deploying use cases. But you don't have to wait for that to be deployed when our single wholesale network reaches there. But from an enterprise perspective, we will then take the extra effort to make sure that we build a private network for them so they can start capitalizing the use cases and enjoying the benefits of what 5G can do. So we are looking at it from both angles, from outside in and inside out, and also from basically the demand perspective of how hungry they are. We want to make sure that yes, we can do it. The use cases are available. Start small, think big.
Excellent. A last follow-up question. We are coming towards the close of the session. So, is about talent. There is even in the cloud session, it was supposed to be about cloud, but the conversation all ended up being about talent. You are in. It seems like that is the single biggest priority for every leader. So, how are Raja? How are you? You have the benefit of being a digital native business, but supported by the free cash flow a telco generates. But is there in many ways a hindrance to attract the right talent? How are you overcoming it? And Prem, for you as well, how are I know you briefly said you are creating the next set of talent by partnering with universities to serve a bigger national agenda. So want to hear both about how are you addressing this talent challenge? How are you grooming the needs and preparing the talent for tomorrow's needs for your businesses? Raja, you
Yeah.
want to go ahead?
So sure. So for us, it's like a best of both, where we have the flexibility to work like a startup. So we encourage people to come in, feel empowered. I think empowerment is very very essential for the kind of company that we are building, and we give the opportunity for people to come in and share ideas and disrupt things, right? Because experimentation is very important in our line of business if we were to build innovative products following the demand. So there is a level of experimentation that we can do, and attracting talent is associated with that flexibility and the culture that we are trying to build as a startup. So we work very horizontally. I mean, when I said the word agile, we work very horizontally in squads. We don't have a typical functional way of working, and that is something that makes the organization more interesting as compared to the other sort of organizations out there. But obviously, retaining talent is an important topic for us also. It doesn't mean that we are not affected by it. We are. Hence, we are trying to focus a lot on our culture. So people sit at the as the most important asset that we have. Employee lifecycle management is a key process within our organization, and we're continuously learning from hearing from our people as to what motivates them on a day-to-day basis. But working in an agile manner, empowering and allowing them to disrupt and experiment is something that is the core of our DNA.
Excellent. Prem?
Yeah, okay. I touched upon how we're doing it from a national front where we're talking to HRDC, we're talking to universities, cultivating new knowledge level that is required to serve the industry of the future or the IR 4.0. What we're doing internally is also we are doing a lot of like retaining talent is very critical. We have started what is called a Churdek program. So we bring in the young graduates talent, and then what we do is we do what it's called they give them the exposure across all different departments where they go through a rotation. We also take the extent extra mile where we place them together with like the essentials or the EYs or the hexas of this, where they go in and they start grooming themselves. That's one part of it, where to keep them to understand the breadth and the depth of what they want to do, what they're passionate about. So they get that diverse exposure in terms of career development rather than coming in for a product role and sitting on a product role and then seeing how they can excel further in that particular line. So we're taking that as a different scope. The other thing that we are doing is we are constantly running training programs. Like, for example, within our departments, we are now telling what is 5G. We are telling them what are the use cases. We are talking to them about all the industry verticals. Well, how does it impact the GDP? We are running different costs. We are also looking at technology costs, financial costs. So they get a complete breadth of what is happening outside rather than being in a isolated environment on a 9 to 5 kind of a job routine. So we are taking all this extra step, and it's basically driven top down from our management because cultivating knowledge, building knowledge, and getting things, get the exposure that the employees need is very much in the prime vision of DNB.
Excellent. Hey, thank you very much, Prem. Thank you very much, Raja. I think it is fine. It is great to hear a very diverse set of perspectives, and especially for people who are working in telecommunications. We tend to have been sometimes very blinded by our vision of how we are serving customers. So hearing these different perspectives in terms of how you are serving customers is actually quite refreshing and hopefully inspired many people into